Supriya Srivastava, Faculty Coordinator of Yogananda Center for Theology. On the behalf of Shoolini University, I welcome you all in our Science of Spirituality webinar 2023. Today among us, an eminent speaker, Sri Lakshminarayanan ji from Vedanta Institute, Delhi. I welcome you, sir. I would like to introduce Sri Lakshminarayanan ji with few words. Sri Lakshminarayanan ji is a senior disciple of Swami Parth Sarthi. After learning electronics and communication engineering, he had a brief stint in an all-India-based engineering company. And he gave up his professional career to join full-time course on Vedanta and its practical application in life, conducted by Swami Parth Sarthi at the Vedanta Academy. He had been conducted Vedanta study classes for over 2 decades in India and abroad. Today, we have a great privilege to listen to him on the topic, the gems of Bhagavad Gita and self-management. We also have among us our Honorable Chancellor, Shoolini University, patron of Yogananda Center for Theology, and above all, a senior disciple of world-renowned yogi Sri Sri Paramhans Yogananda ji, Professor P.K. Khosla. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
We also have our chairman, YCT, and ex-IS officer Vivek Atre, who is also a disciple of Sri Paramhans Yogananda ji. Because of some reason, he has not joined yet, so I'm sorry, but I welcome him also. So before we proceed with the webinar, I request our Honorable Chancellor, Sir, Sri Professor P.K. Khosla for a welcome note. Over to you, sir.
Dr. Lakshminarayanan ji, Vivek has not yet joined, and our friend.
Yes, sir, I have joined also. Jai Guru.
Jai Guru, Jai Guru. Okay. Thank you very much, Lakshminarayanan ji, for agreeing to give a very interesting talk to our students. Gems from the Gita of self-management. If you look at Bhagavad Gita, it is an, I would say, extract of all Hindu scriptures, whether it's the Vedas, Puranas, Sutras, Samritis, whatever we have. It is a, I would say, a pot which contains everything, which one can easily drink in comparison to the other books, which may be more sophisticated or not understandable. Because Bhagavad Gita today is available in all languages, Hindi, English, and many vernacular languages. And what Bhagavad Gita is, the Lord Krishna and Arjuna. It's a dialogue between the two. How to live is the issue. Should Arjuna ask, should I kill my relatives, my friends, my elders, my grandfather, and so on and so forth? Or will I be not doing a bad duty in this regard? This is what the Bhagavad Gita is, that we belong to none. There is body, mind, and soul. Body is perishable. This is what Vedanta also tells. What is the Vivekananda says? You are only a soul, because if body is temporary, its body is changeable. After every birth, you have a new body. You just have your new clothes. And the same thing, it is a temporary and ephemeral in nature. Whereas soul, when leaves the body, on it are ingrained all our karma, and all our lives is embedded on that. And when the soul finds a new body, and then it starts coming up as the age passes. Your doctrine of karma is there, what you sow, so shall you reap. And I vividly remember at the age of 25, I was moving in the forest of Darjeeling Hills. I was detained by the army. That was 1965, when the Pakistan war was on. I was studying the forests of Eastern Himalayas. And at the camp, I was detained by the army because of the Pakistan war. The camp was there. I didn't have any verification papers. They handed over me to the police, and police then put me in the lockup. And after 10 hours, I was released. All the time, all these years, I have been wondering, why this punishment? I have not done anything. Now I understand this all from the bad karma. Maybe that's why my punishment is over. So self-management here would mean that notwithstanding your karma, you can manage, you can change your destiny. And the goal is the path is through the meditation. I happened to read the book, Autobiography of Yogi, in 1992. Oh, then I thought one chapter was pertaining to Swami Vivekananda, where he tells to one of the little boy that your guru will one day give you a silver cup. He gets a silver cup. I wondered how could Vivekananda know all those things? It is worthwhile know more about it. And since then, I am in a very humble way become a student of Yogananda. And at least, if I may not be a good practitioner, I had understood that one can self-manage, and each and every verse of the Bhagavad Gita talks about it. So Bhagavad Gita, that is the whole compendium is on self-management, how to live, the art of living. It is ingrained deeply in each and every shlok of Bhagavad Gita. So with this background, I request Lakshminarayanan ji or Dr. Vivek to introduce him to the audience, and we would be happy to enjoy the very illuminating lecture on self-management through Bhagavad Gita. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, Dr. Khosla, for that introduction. And welcome to Lakshminarayanan ji. Warm welcome to you. We met in Chandigarh recently when we decided to have this webinar. Yeah. And it is so kind of you to agree and go ahead with the teachings of the Gita. And I'm sure this is only a first one in a series of teachings that you may like to bring to our listeners and viewers. The Yogananda Center has a regular webinar series. Today I am traveling, so my apologies that I have to speak from another location. But I am very happy that you have joined. And I think this webinar will go a long way in clarifying a lot about the Gita and its teaching, because many people find it a little difficult to understand. And we need to simplify and make people aware of the true depth. And as Dr. Khosla said, we are very much influenced by the teachings of India, especially the scriptures. And Paramahansa Yogananda, in his teachings, has authored God Talks with Arjuna. That is the interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita that he has given, where the battle is within us. So I'm sure you will talk about the battle within and how we can conquer it, especially in these very tough times. And since Vedanta is a teaching which is absolutely crucial to the context of understanding the path of that has been taught by the scriptures and the divine, I think it is a wonderful idea to have you here. So once again, a warm welcome and all the best for your session. So Priyaji, please introduce him briefly, formally again, and then over to Lakshminarayanan.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. It's always inspiring to listen to you, sir. Now, to begin with the webinar, I request our chief guest and eminent speaker, Sri Lakshminarayanan ji, to kindly address the gathering with your knowledgeable talk. Before proceeding, I would like to introduce our speaker once again. Sri Lakshminarayanan ji is a senior disciple of Swami Parth Sarthi. He has been an engineer. After learning electronics and communication engineering, he had a brief stint in an all-India-based engineering company. He gave up his professional career to join full-time course on Vedanta and its practical application in life, conducted by Swami Parth Sarthi at the Vedanta Academy. He has been conducted Vedanta study classes for over 2 decades in India and abroad. Today, we are waiting to listen Sri Lakshminarayanan ji on a very knowledgeable topic and very relevant topic, the gems of Bhagavad Gita and self-management. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Khosla, and thank you, Vivek ji, and thank you, Supriya. I also see this as a great opportunity to address the youngsters, especially of the essence of Bhagavad Gita. As Dr. Khosla said and Vivek ji said, Srimad Bhagavad Gita is all about knowledge of life and living. In fact, Dr. Khosla said it's the gist of all the scriptures. I tend to agree with him. In fact, as you all know, we have 4 Vedas called Rig, Yajur, Sama, and Atharvana. Veda means knowledge. So we have 4 sources of knowledge in this country. In fact, we all should be proud, not egoistic, but proud that we are born in this country. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita also, Sri Krishna at times addresses Arjuna as, Bharata Rishabha, like that. He goes on addressing Arjuna in many contexts. What is this country Bharat mean actually? Bhasi Ratha, one who revels in the light of knowledge, one who revels in the light of consciousness. So in fact, the one thing that, if at all this country has contributed to this universe and which is the most essential thing, is the knowledge of the self. And this knowledge has been flowing from time immemorial, So the gist of all these 4 Vedas is what is given in the Bhagavad Gita. So in fact, they call it as the 5th Veda. Srimad Bhagavad Gita is called as the 5th Veda at times. So Bhagavad Gita talks about the individual, and it talks about the world, and it talks about the essence in both, and how the essence in the individual is the same essence in the world, and it talks about the unity. In fact, Bhagavad Gita is nothing but an elaboration of that Mahavakya, Tat Tvam Asi. Tat Tvam Asi means that the what? That reality, the what? That truth, the what? That divinity, the what? That self, the what? Not what you believe yourself to be today. So the first 6 chapters, as you know, Bhagavad Gita has about 18 chapters, and it's a conversation between Sri Krishna and Arjuna. Sri Krishna, the Guru, and Arjuna, the disciple. And it is given in about 18 chapters. About 701 shlokas are there in the Gita. So the first 6 chapters talk about the nature of the individual. Tvam. From the Tat Tvam Asi, the Tvam aspect is discussed in the first 6 chapters. Tvam. And then the middle 6 chapters talk about Tat, the nature of the Lord, Ishvara. And the last 6 chapters establishes the oneness between the individual and Ishvara, the Lord. How the individual is essentially divine. So each one of us are essentially divine. Not knowing our essential nature, we are meandering in this universe, unable to live our life with peace and productivity. So Bhagavad Gita gives us this knowledge which enables us to attain that highest potential, highest perfection within. If a person is not gaining this knowledge in life, a person can fall to a great extent. To what extent a fellow can fall, a person can fall. It talks about that also. It talks about the ladder of fall. It talks about Sthita Prajna. Prajnaha means knowledge, one who is knowledgeable. Nyaha. Prajnaha means one who is well established in knowledge. Sthita Prajnaha means one who is well established in knowledge in all conditions, 24/7, 365 days throughout his life. A perfect human being. So in the Bhagavad Gita, there are verses which talk about a perfect human being. to what extent a person can rise. And then it also talks about how without this knowledge a person can fall, and how to understand all this and move towards that perfection. Entire thing is discussed in the Bhagavad Gita. So it is nothing but self-management leading to self-conquest. Like Swami Vivekananda said, you conquer the mind, you conquer the world. The most difficult thing is to conquer the mind. So therefore, Gita talks about the nature of the individual, nature of the mind, and how there is another equipment within the individual called intellect, by developing which a person can control the mind and direct it towards the highest and reach the highest potential, the divinity within. And if you see, of all the creation, the creatures in the universe, human being alone require this knowledge. Animals don't need knowledge. Animals lead a life which is beaten path. It's kind of determined. Whereas a human being has choice of action. So therefore, there is a need for self-management for the human being. So first we are going to see what brings the need, why there is a need in the human being for self-management. If you understand evolution and genetics, from single cell to worms to fishes, to amphibians, to reptiles, to primates to human beings, we have come to this modern human beings level. So we all have essentially evolved from this, essential animal level. So who is this human being? The human being is nothing but animal plus higher intelligence, value and awareness. We all are actually animals in a way. We behave like an animal very often. And we also say, I would like to party the whole day. And there's a very interesting name given to all of them, party animals. All these people who are fond of partying the whole day or whole weekend, they call themselves as party animals. So human beings are nothing but animal plus higher intelligence, evolved basically from a single cell, and therefore evolved animal, lots of latent animal tendencies. If ungoverned, functions as an animal. Therefore, there is a need for self-management. Animals are governed by law of heredity. Human beings are governed by both law of heredity and law of adaptation. We need to learn the art of living. We need to learn about the world, and we need to adapt using our buddhi, using our intellect. Animals don't have a choice of action. A human being has choice of action. Our destiny is determined by the choices we make in our life. In fact, Dr. Khosla referred to karma in the beginning, See, when we talk about law of karma, we also talk about law of destiny, prarabdha. What we are today is because of the actions that we did in the past. What we will be tomorrow will depend upon what we do today, mixing with our past, bringing the future. So our past determines the present. And the actions we choose and do in the present mixes with the present destiny and carves our future. So, therefore, we need to understand that as human beings, we have this capacity to choose. Now, after having chosen, we are bound by the consequence. You have a choice to smoke or not to smoke. But if you choose to smoke, there are certain consequences. You will have to face those consequences. There is no point saying, I didn't know about these things. I didn't know the repercussions. Whether you know or not, the law will function. So therefore, we better strengthen our buddhi and choose wisely. And then animals have emotions and are victimized by emotions. Victimized by emotions in the sense they become emotional. Plants don't have emotions. When I say that, science says that plants also do have emotions, but it's very, very rudimentary. So for all practical purposes, we say plants don't have emotions. Animals have emotions and they are victimized by emotions. They are governed by emotions. They are overpowered by emotions. Human beings should have emotions, but ought not to be controlled by emotions. We should control our emotions. We should not become emotional. You know, when you have let's say you have a pet dog at home and you have gone for about 10 days somewhere, and when you come back, the dog has been waiting for you. When you ring the bell, dog senses that you've returned. And as soon as you open the door, dog starts jumping over you, licking you, all that. The dog has tremendous emotion for you. You also have emotions for the dog, but you don't do the same thing like the dog. Though you have emotions, you don't go and lick the dog. The dog is licking you. Dog has emotions, but it is not overpowered by emotions. So therefore, a human being should have emotions, but keep the emotions under control. Animals don't have the intellect. They have a very, very limited thinking ability. They can only discriminate between a stranger and the master. What is edible, what is not edible, male and a female. Basic discrimination they have. They don't have the capacity of thinking like human being does. So human beings are capable of greater thinking. So therefore, they should use their thinking ability, think and choose wisely, control the mind and direct themselves. In fact, the Bhagavad Gita was given by Sri Krishna being on the chariot, and you would see Arjuna sitting on the same chariot, getting ready to fight. At the time, he was overpowered by emotions. It was the war between Kauravas and Pandavas, as you know. And Arjuna came prepared to fight. But having seen his great-grandfather, Bhishma Pitamaha, and his guru, Dronacharya, on the opposite camp, he became weak. He was overpowered by emotions. He said, I cannot fight. I'm confused as to what is dharma. And luckily, he surrendered to Sri Krishna. He says, my nature is overpowered by the taint of pity. Karpanya dosha upahata swabhavaha. Prichamitvam dharma sammoda chetaha. Yashreyasya nishitam bruhitanme. Sishyasteham shadimam tvam prapan. In verse number 7, chapter 2, he surrenders to Sri Krishna. He says, I am thy disciple. Please tell me what is good for me, what is Shreyas for me. These words, Shreya and Preya, we need to understand. In Sanskrit, these are beautiful words. Preya means what is pleasant. Shreya means what is good. What is pleasant and what is good. Throughout our life, we are confronted with what is pleasant, what is good. And most often, we choose what is pleasant. And the same Bhagavad Gita tells us in the 18th chapter, what is pleasurable in the beginning ends up as poison. What is like poison in the beginning ends up as amrita, nectar, pleasant in the end. So therefore, we need to strengthen the intellect, control the mind and direct ourselves. That's what the chariot is also symbolizing. So Sri Krishna gave this knowledge sitting on the chariot. Now the entire chariot represents the human body. And Arjuna represents the individual you and me. And the horses represents the senses. Horses represents the senses. The reins represents the mind. And Sri Krishna represents the intellect. The charioteer, Sri Krishna, represents the buddhi, intellect. Now, if the horses are controlled by the charioteer, if the mind is controlled by the buddhi, then the chariot, the body in which the individual is sitting, can travel on the path peacefully, successfully. If not, one horse would want to go this side, the other horse would want to go that side, and the chariot will collapse. The individual will be on the road. Therefore, it is extremely important that we understand the symbolism. Intellect should control the mind, and in turn, the mind should control the body. Then our life we will be able to achieve peace and success. So therefore, there is this need for self-management. What is this self-management? It is nothing but buddhi over manas. Buddhi means intellect. Manas means mind. All of us have the physical body, the mind, the intellect. Generally, we say body and mind. Mind, when you say, are you talking about the determined thought flow, discriminative thought flow, or are you talking about indiscriminate thought flow? When the thought flow is indiscriminate, it's called mind. When the thought flow is discriminate in nature, it's called the intellect, buddhi. So both are nothing but thoughts. One is indiscriminate, the other is discriminate. So therefore, we need to strengthen the buddhi, which is the adult in us. The mind is the child in us. Adult should be controlling and directing the child. It should not be the other way around. But most of us, we go to schools and colleges, we gain a lot of intelligence in various subjects. We become very, very intelligent in many different subjects. We are informed, well informed. But when it comes to control over our mind, we fail miserably. So therefore, in Vedanta, we say intelligence is different from intellect. You need to strengthen the intellect, which has the capacity to control and direct the mind. So what is self-management? Self-management is nothing but intellect over mind. You can call it as IOM. IOM. Intellect over the mind. Generally, all of us are mind over the intellect. That's the problem. So therefore, it is extremely important. We need to strengthen this intellect. Now, what is the role then God plays in our life if we have to use our buddhi? See, God cannot be with us. One fellow is praying for rain. The farmer has sown the seed and the farmer is praying for rain. And the cricket fans are waiting for the cricket match, which is happening tomorrow, let's say, and they are praying that there should be no rain. Whose side God is going to take? So what God has done is, He is simply given what is called as the buddhi. Each one of you help yourself using the buddhi. And He's also given this knowledge, Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, everything. In fact, all these are called as apaurusha. Paurusha means that which is brought about by the individual's effort, the human effort. Apaurusha means it's not something that is come from the individual's effort. When the individual, through sadhana, dissolves the ego and has merged with the God consciousness, the divinity speaking through them, that is all these Vedas and Gita and everything. So that's why every time when Sri Krishna says something in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Every time it says Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, which means what? The Lord is speaking. Even now, when I'm speaking now, it is actually the Guru Parampara talking through me. Whatever I'm talking is the knowledge given by the Guru. And when I'm sitting here and I've managed to control and eliminate my ego now, to that extent, I allow the Guru Parampara to speak through me. This is the fact. Well, you have gained a lot of information, maybe, and it's all there in your mind. But if the ego takes over, it will not come out. So therefore, each one of us will have to use the choice of action, the buddhi, and help ourselves. God is only playing the role of a witness. Remember this, Sakshi. In fact, the Bhagavad Gita, Shri Krishna very clearly says that God plays the role of a Sakshi, witness. You do wrong actions, you will reap the result according to that. You do the right action, you will reap the results according to that. That's all. In fact, in verse number 5, chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Udared Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadayet Atmaiva Atmano Bandhuhu Atmaiva Ripuratmanaha. Bandhu means friend, Ripu means enemy. So in this context, Atma means your own mind, your own little self. Let man lift himself by himself. Let him not lower himself. His self alone is his friend. His self alone is his enemy. If your buddhi is sharpened with the knowledge, in fact, scriptures, when you say scripture in English, what is the Sanskrit word for scripture? Anybody? What is the Sanskrit word for the scripture? Can you all hear me?
Scripture. Adhyatmik pustake, sir.
Shastras, Shastram, Shastra. Shastram means teach and protect. Teach and protect. See, you go under a tree. Tree gives shade for anyone and everyone. It doesn't ask you, are you a black, are you a white person, are you colored, are you Indian, American, are you a man or a female, male or a female? It doesn't ask you any of these questions. You go under the tree, it gives you shade. Similarly, you go under the scriptures, it gives you knowledge. But you have to go. Tree doesn't come to you. You have to go there. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, in the end, Sri Krishna says, do not give this knowledge to a person who does not ask for it. Do not give this knowledge to a person who does not ask for it appropriately, properly. So, we always say knowledge is never given, it is taken. It is taken. So, you got to lift yourself by yourself. You're given this ability. This knowledge is given. Shastra means teach and protect. The wisdom of all the great masters is given to us in a nutshell, in 700 slokas in Bhagavad Gita. So therefore, instead of we having to live our life like the others and make those same mistakes and learn, we can learn from studying the scriptures. We can strengthen ourselves and meet the challenges of life. And that's what the Gita also says. You got to help yourself by strengthening yourself. Uddared atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva atmano bandhuku atmaiva ripuratmanaha. Your mind will be your friend if you have mastered it. Otherwise, it will be your enemy. John Milton says, mind in its own place can make a heaven out of a hell and a hell out of heaven. Right now, wherever you are, it can be heaven or it can be hell. It is all in your head only. See, if you are enjoying my talk, this 1 hour that I'm going to be talking to you will be heaven. If not, it will be hell. When is this fellow going to finish? Unnecessarily, I enrolled myself to this program. I'm stuck with this fellow's talk, So, mind in its own place can make a heaven out of a hell and a hell out of a heaven. Therefore, the whole thing hinges on controlling and directing the mind. In fact, when we talk about life, we say it is impossible to live without action. There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita. In the 3rd chapter, he says, Nahi, that in that shloka, the essence, what he's trying to say is, not even a single moment you can live without action. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karmakrit karyate hyavashak karma sarva prakriti jair gunaihi. It's a beautiful shloka. He says, none can remain without action, even for a moment. Action is the insignia of life. Inaction is death. In fact, in English, there's a saying, it says, if you rest, you will rust. If you rest, you will rust. Action is the insignia of life. So if we say, oh, there's tremendous life in Mumbai. There's tremendous life in New York. Why? There's a lot of activity. You go to the villages where there is very little activity, and hardly any life there. मजा नहीं है. I don't want to go there. Mumbai ठीक है, बहुत सारा life है, बहुत energy है उधर. Why? People are very active. You understand? So action is the insignia of life. Inaction is death. So therefore, we need to act, and our actions are propelled by what? It is propelled by either the mind or the intellect. It is propelled by either the mind or the intellect or the combination. So what is this mind? Body is doing the action. What is this mind? Mind is nothing but feelings, emotions, impulses, likes and dislikes, called as raga and dvesha. This is our mind. My mind, your mind, everybody's mind is what? Feelings, emotions, impulses, likes and dislikes, desires. And what is buddhi? Intellect? The ability to think, the capacity, the faculty that can think, judge, reason, analyze, discriminate independently. This is what it is. So when you have to do an action, you may have likes and dislikes. Each one of us have different likes and dislikes. There's nothing wrong in that. But we cannot afford to act on our likes and dislikes. We need to use our buddhi, think and see if what I'm liking is good for me. If I'm not, or rather if I'm not liking something, whether it is good for me or not. Just because I like it doesn't mean I can do it. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean I need to throw away. I need to not act on it. If it is something good for me, I need to act. Therefore, I need to use my intellect independently, think and act. Otherwise, I'll be in trouble. And from morning till night, we are constantly acting. We go through 3 transactions of life. The 3 transactions of life are called as receipt, reaction, and response. What are they? What are they? Receipt, reaction, and response. We receive the stimuli, the color and form for the eyes, smell for the nose, taste for the tongue, sound for the ears, and touch for the skin through the senses. And it goes to the mind. And the mind is full of likes and dislikes. We react according to the likes and dislikes. And then mostly we immediately take action. They are called impulsive responses. They are not proper responses. And when we do actions impulsively, we'll have to face the consequence as we discussed before. On the contrary, when the signals are received in the mind through the senses, it should be referred to the intellect. And the intellect should think about it, reason, judge, analyze, and then see whether this stimuli I should act upon, how should I act upon, when should I act upon, etc. And when you do that, it's called proactive response. So we receive the stimuli through the sense organs of perception. It reaches the mind. Because of our likes and dislikes, we react. And we need to refer it to the intellect, and the intellect needs to think about it and then act through the organs of action. So in other words, from the world we receive the stimuli. Within us, the stimuli is getting processed, and then we are sending out the response. This is what we are doing throughout the day. We are like a small factory, manufacturing unit. In a manufacturing unit, what is happening? They receive the raw material from the world outside, and then it is processed within the factory, and the finished product is sent back into the world, isn't it? The raw material comes from the world outside, and it is processed within the factory, and the finished product is sent back to the world. Now, if the finished product has to be first grade, the raw material also should be first grade. If the raw material is second grade or third grade, you cannot get the first quality product as the finished product. Similarly, when we receive the stimuli, even there we need to use our buddhi and receive what is good for us. All kinds of stimuli will come in, but we should not allow everything and anything. We easily succumb to gossiping. Somebody comes and gossips. You may not go and gossip, but someone else comes and gossips to you. It's very nice, especially to talk ill about others, especially in their absence, having fun at their cost. So you easily you give in. So that is where the intellect should say, no, don't allow this stimuli. It's not good for you. Somebody went to Lord Buddha to talk about someone else who was not there. So Lord Buddha first stopped him. He said, "Arey, come on here, wait a minute. Whatever you're going to tell about that guy, is it truth?" He said, "No." "Is it beneficial to you or me?" "No." "Then why are you talking about it? It is not the truth. It is not beneficial to you or me. Then why we talk about it?" So this is the kind of exercise we need to do when we're receiving the stimuli. And then we need to handle our reactions also with our intellect. And then we need to wisely send out the responses also. Otherwise, the mind will wreak havoc. Mind wreaks havoc. How does it wreak havoc? Mind is full of likes and dislikes. What is the mind infested of? Full of likes and dislikes. From the time you are born, you keep on picking up likes and dislikes. See, I'm a South Indian by birth, right? I grew up there. Now I'm living in Delhi for the last almost 17 years. But essentially, I grew up in South India. So my likes and dislikes, especially with reference to the choices of food, will be different from a person who's grown up in North India. They have their own likes and dislikes. Swami Ramana Maharshi may like rice. Swami Ram Tirtha may like roti. You understand? But they will never allow their likes and dislikes to determine their life. Another problem with the mind is it rambles to past and future. It never stays in one place. It's compared with monkey. Monkey never stays in one place. The biggest cage in the zoo is of the monkey because it cannot stay in one place. It will be constantly jumping. So therefore, the mind is always referred to as the monkey in us. It keeps jumping from the past to the future. It never stays in the present. And mind is full of uncontrollable desires. And that is why the mind is compared with fire. Agni, fire. Because how much ever you give to Agni, fire, it will want more and more and more. Dil mange more. Mind will say, Dil mange more, like Pepsi ad. Always you give, how much ever you give, it wants more. It is never satiated. That is our mind. Another problem with the mind is it develops preferential attachment. It craves for what it does not have and it gets attached to what it has. With our possessions, with our family, we start getting attached. This is the biggest problem, the deadliest thing, attachment. So therefore, we need to understand these natures of the mind and strengthen the intellect and control and direct the mind. And how does a human being fall? In these shlokas, Sri Krishna beautifully says, in the second chapter, verse number 62, he says, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajhayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodot Vijayate Krodat Bhavati Sammohaha Sammohat Smriti Vibhramaha Smriti Vibhramshat Buddhinashaha Buddhinashat Pranashyati. What does that mean? Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha. Vishaya means sense objects. When the mind of a man is musing, meaning mentally thinking, interacting with the sense object, it develops what is called as attachment. Sangha. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Pajayate. Sangha Sanjayate Kamaha. From Sangha, which means attachment. From Sangha, what comes? Kama. Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha. Desires. Kamat Krodot Vijayate. Anger. How from desire anger comes? Anyone interrupts your desire, you develop anger. X loves Y. The boy named X is loving the girl named Y. Y. And Mr. W is coming in between and saying, I also like Y. I also love her. Then X gets angry with W. So what is anger? Anger is nothing but deflected thought current. Desires interrupted. That is anger. So from attachment, which comes from mind musing over the object without intellect's guidance, comes desire. From desires comes anger. From anger comes what? Krodha bhavati sammohaha. Delusion. When the fellow is in delusion, he doesn't know what he's talking. He's telling his boss, when he's angry, hey, you keep the job, man. I don't need your job. You keep it. The boss is telling, Arey yaar, don't resign now. I know you need this job. You've taken so much loan. You have to pay your school fees to your children. I know your family very well. You need this job. Hey, you keep that job, man. I don't need it. He's telling his boss. When you are in delusion, you do not know what you are doing. You do not know right from wrong. So, krodhat bhavati sammoha. Sammoha, smriti vibhramaha. Smriti means memory. Smriti also means scriptures, right? You forget what all you studied in the scriptures. Smriti bhramshat buddhi nashaha. Then what happens? Your intellect is gone. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. The buddhi is gone. We just saw in the beginning. Who is a human being? What did we discuss as human being is? The very first slide I said, what is it? Who is a human being? Animal plus buddhi. If buddhi is gone, then you will be animal. But in the case of an animal, there is no choice of action. When the tiger kills a deer and eats, tiger is not sent to the jail. You understand? Tiger doesn't have choice of action. Human being has choice of action. You are supposed to exercise your choices wisely. So, buddhi nashat pranashyati. So, if you see in this diagram there on the screen, we have given the ladder of fall, which Bhagavad Gita talks about. Verse number 62 and 63 of chapter 2, which is what I quoted just now. From the thought, attachment. From attachment, desire. From desire, anger. From anger, delusion. From delusion, loss of memory. From loss of memory, loss of intellect. Loss of intellect means what? Total destruction. Total destruction. Complete destruction. Therefore, in the very beginning, when the thought is there itself you need to use your buddhi and control. So how do we fall? We fall by not exercising our intellect over the thoughts. You keep on musing over the thoughts. You develop all these desires, attachments, unnecessarily. If in the beginning itself you thought about it, you removed it, it would have not become the essence. In fact, we use a word called vasana. Vasana comes from the root vas. Vas means fragrance. Each one of us are different because we have different vasanas. All of us are nothing but consolidated fragrances of different vasanas. And how do we develop all this? By unintelligent, unconscious, indiscriminate thinking. Therefore, we need to consciously choose our thoughts. See, there is all kinds of thoughts that may be there in us, but we need to choose as to which thought I am going to give strength. It is in me. Mahatma Gandhi is also in me. The negative elements are also in me. This is what they said, Paramahamsa Ji also says that actual war between the Kauravas and Pandavas are what? Basically the war within. That is why they say, दूसरों को जय से पहले खुद को जय करे. Arjuna was not able to conquer his mind. Luckily, he surrendered and Sri Krishna gave the knowledge. And in the end, Sri Krishna asks, has this knowledge resurrected you? He says, yes, my delusion is gone. It's all your prasad, it's all your gift. So therefore, you need to understand how a human being falls. And you need to understand the nature of the mind. Again, this nature of the mind is discussed by Sri Krishna in verse number 34, chapter 6. Chanchalam hi manak Krishna pramati balavam dridam balavad dridam tasyaham nihraham manye vayoriva sudushkaraha. This verse is actually given by Arjuna. Arjuna is telling Sri Krishna that, Hare Krishna, the mind is chanchalam. Chanchalam means what? Restless. Pramati, turbulent. And then it is another very interesting thing about mind is it becomes extremely strong. It's not yielding to any reasoning after some time. If you don't do anything when it's a small sapling, once it's become a tree, it's very difficult to do anything. So therefore, he says, the mind is restless, turbulent, and it's also too strong. How many people would have gone and spoken to Duryodhana? How many people would have gone and spoken to Ravana? But in fact, Ravana was a very learned scholar. In spite of it, he gave into his mind. Isn't it? So therefore, it's very, very strong. And then it becomes obstinate. It's not going to listen to anybody. Therefore, Arjuna is saying, how it's possible? I consider it as difficult to control as the wind. In fact, Sri Krishna also says the same thing. He is very interestingly, Sri Krishna also says, Sadrisham cheshtate swasyaha prakrite jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. He says the mind, even a man of knowledge, acts in accordance with his own nature. His own nature means it's his vasanas, it's swadharma. His nature takes over. Beings follow their nature. What can restraint do? So you're not supposed to restrain the mind. Then how are you supposed to control it? It's a big problem. So there is nothing wrong with likes and dislikes. I kept on saying from the beginning that again Sri Krishna says that here also. In the verse number 34, which I have projected on the screen, you can see Indriyasya Indriyasya arte ragadvesho vyavastitau tayorna vashamagachet tauhyasya paripantitau. What it means is attachment and aversion, likes and dislikes. For the objects of the senses abide in the senses. In other words, the likes and dislikes are within us. Let none come under the dominion of these two, for they are one's enemies. So what he's trying to say is, the likes and dislikes are within you. Nothing wrong in them. Do not try to force. Anything forced is never forceful. So therefore, do not try to force the mind. You should not force. Then what you are supposed to do? You just have to make sure that you don't come under the dominion of likes and dislikes. You should not come under the dominion of likes and dislikes. So what you should do for that? He says, choose your swadharma. It's a very, very beautiful sloka. Very important sloka in the Bhagavad Gita also. Shreyan swadharme vigunaha paradharmat swanushtita. Swadharme nidanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavahaha. Swadharma means one's own nature. Paradharma means alien nature. Now in the beginning when Supriya was introducing me, she said my educational background is engineering, which is true. But I found out that my nature is not engineering. Like, maybe herd instinct, I don't know what it was. I just went to engineering. But then I realized while I was working that this is not my nature. Then luckily, I heard my guru speak on Bhagavad Gita. Then I joined his ashram, which is near Lonavla in Maharashtra, near Pune. We studied there for 3 years course we studied, and then, ever since we've been doing this. So quickly I understood my nature is not engineering. This is my nature. There's nothing wrong if your nature is engineering. It just happened that my nature is not engineering. So everyone must follow their nature. So what Sri Krishna is trying to say, how to conquer the mind, how to deal with the mind, he says, first choose the field of activity according to your nature. In other words, you can choose the field of activity according to your likes and dislikes. Then you should not choose according to somebody else's nature, which is what is called as paradharma. So that is why he says, better is Swadharma, one's own duty, nature, though devoid of merit, than Paradharma, duty of another, well discharged. Better is death in Swadharma, Paradharma is fraught with fear. So he is recommending us to choose the Swadharmic field. Swadharmic field means the field that you love. Arjuna's Swadharma is what? Kshatriya, warrior, administrator, leader. That is Arjuna, right? So that is his nature. He should choose the field of activity according to his or her own Swadharma. But having chosen the field of activity, you are not supposed to act on likes and dislikes. That is very, very important. See in verse number 64, chapter 2, Sri Krishna says, Raga Dvesha Viyuktaistu Vishayan Indriyaischaran Atma Vashyai Videyatma Prasadam Madhigacchati. He says, when he says Raga Dvesha, means likes and dislikes. Raga Dvesha Viyuktaistu Vishayan Indriyaischaran Atma Vashyai Videyatma Prasadam Madhigacchati. But the self-controlled man, free from likes and dislikes, moving among objects with his senses under control, attains peace. He uses very interestingly, he says, Atma Vashyai Videyatma, two words which kind of means the same. Self-controlled, self-controlled. Self-controlled, self-controlled. Why is he using twice? What he's trying to say is, when you do an action, your action should not be propelled by likes and dislikes. In other words, you choose the field of activity according to your Swadharma. But in the field of activity, you don't act on your likes and dislikes. For example, when you're in the university, college, supposing your Swadharma is biology, you've chosen biology, right, as the main subject. But you also have other subjects, which may not be your Swadharma. But you can't say, I won't study that. That is also part of your obligation. So, the field of activity can be according to your Swadharma. But within the field, you don't act on your likes and dislikes. Are you getting it? Your actions should not be propelled by likes and dislikes. And once you have acted like this, then you don't develop fresh likes and dislikes. How do you do that? By ruminating over the action. See, what happens is, what is the mistake all of us do in life? Generally, we have tremendous desires to go around the world. All our life, we are working for that, only earning money. We have tremendous likes to go abroad, go and see the different places. So we keep on working or maybe taking loans also nowadays, and then we go abroad. So what is happening? Our actions are propelled by likes. Nothing wrong in going abroad. Vedanta doesn't say don't go abroad, right? But all it says is it should not be propelled by likes and dislikes. But most of us are propelled by likes and dislikes. But having gone there, we do all video recording. We come back, show it to a lot of our friends, and we keep on thinking about it. We post it in the Facebook, post it in the Instagram, everywhere, constantly dwelling over it. We develop more and more likes and dislikes and desires. We intensify the fire of likes and dislikes, the desires. Therefore, he says, your actions should not be propelled by likes and dislikes. And having acted upon your intellect, you should make sure that you should end perception with perception, end action with action. You don't thereafter ruminate over that experience and build fresh likes and dislikes. Is what he says. But the self-controlled man, free from likes and dislikes, moving among objects with his senses under control, attains peace. Raga Dvesha Viyuktaistu Vishayan Indriyaischaran Atma Vashyai Videyatma Prasadam Madhigacchati. Prasadam means what? Peace. So in the next shloka he says, Prasade Sarva Dukkhanam Hanirasyopajayate Prasanna Chetaso Yashuhu Buddhi Paryavatishtate. In peace, all his sorrows are destroyed. The intellect of the tranquil minded soon becomes steady. So slowly, when you act in life, propelled by your intellect. So what does the intellect do? Intellect finds out what is your nature, Swadharma. And you choose the field of activity according to your nature, Swadharma. Then within the field, you don't act on your likes and dislikes. And then having acted upon, you move to the next action, without ruminating over the past action. Thus, when you continue, you gain peace and productivity also. And in the peace, what happens? You are able to think better. If you think better, you will act better. If you act better, you will be more successful. Success will bring more peace. So you will be in a virtuous cycle. Otherwise, you will be falling in a vicious cycle. Therefore, in this entire portion that we discussed so far, it's about, I think about 50 minutes or so I've spoken so far. In this 50 minutes, I've given few slokas only from the Bhagavad Gita. All that the Gita is trying to say is, your mind can be your friend or your enemy. Your mind will be your friend if you are keeping it under the control of the intellect. It will be your enemy if you are not keeping it under the control of your intellect. Therefore, you need to strengthen the intellect. How do you strengthen the intellect? Anybody? How do you strengthen the buddhi? How do you strengthen your muscles? By exercising your muscles. Similarly, you got to strengthen the buddhi by exercising your intellect. To build a strong intellect, you need to question, not accept anything for granted. Question everything. Do not accept anything for granted. You got to exercise your buddhi. Today you listen to me, you got to ask question, why is he saying so? Whatever he said, is it correct? Is it applicable in all contexts? You got to question, not accept anything for granted. If you actually see now, all of us have many things accepted. All of us carry a bag, handbag or a small box, something we carry with us, isn't it? And we are going on filling it with something or the other. You buy something on the way, so bills are there, you put it in the bag. You go to the petrol station, they give you the bill, you put it in the bag, so many invoices, everything is there. Sometimes all kinds of things which is not is going to be useful for you also, you put it. What do you have to do? In the evening, you got to empty your bag, see what is necessary, keep it, the rest you throw it. Similarly, we have collected so many thoughts. You said, no, you are having webinars. So many webinars you are having, so many classes you are having, you're listening from so many people, and all are going inside you like it's going inside the bag. But we don't question. We don't question. So therefore, it's important we question. And then we need to study the scriptures in the early hours of the day. As you study the scriptures, you will strengthen your intellect. When we study, we need to reflect. It's not just reading. Reflecting means series of subjecting what we read to series of questioning. Why is he saying so? What is he saying? Is it applicable today, though it was given 5,000 years ago? So you start questioning. Then whatever was found logical and satisfying your reasoning, you apply it in your life and verify the authenticity of it. When you apply that in the life, you develop more conviction. A human being's life should be based on convictions, not on dictations. And above all, you may have a certain intellect to some extent grown, developed, strengthened, but you need to make sure that it is applied in the context. So what makes the intellect available in the context is the exercise called introspection. Introspection is a very small exercise you do before going to bed. You be in a seated position. You can do it even lying down, but the chances are you may go off to sleep. Therefore, it's better that you sit down and do introspection. What is introspection? Going through the day's activity from the time you woke up till you're sitting down to do this introspection, one after another, not analyzing, just going through. I woke up at 4, then I did this, then I did that. Then suddenly you'll say, I was supposed to be in the webinar at 3, but I was there at 3:15. Okay, fine, leave it. Don't analyze. Why did I go at 3:15? Why was I late? No questions, no analysis. Just making sure you became aware. And then next day again, when you're doing introspection, some other webinar, same thing happens. I was supposed to be at 3, I was there at 3:15. Don't analyze. So like that, 4-5 days, your intellect is pointing out you were at 3:15, not at 3. Then suddenly 6th day webinar will be there at 2:55 itself. This is the help introspection does. So what is introspection? You go through the day's activity from the time you wake up till the time you're doing introspection. Do it in a seated position with your half eyes closed, not fully closed, not fully open. Okay? Then you go through, just become aware. This will help you to become aware. Develops more awareness. And then automatically when you become aware, everything will become better and better in life. You will not be doing the same mistakes again and again. No person can commit sin with awareness. All our sins are committed without awareness. That's why they say, don't drink alcohol. Per se, what is it? It's nothing but a liquid. It is a big deal. But what does alcohol do? It robs your awareness. Then you give it to your desires. You give it to your lust. Therefore, it is cautioned then. So therefore, introspection is a fantastic exercise. It builds your intellect. It strengthens your awareness. It will keep your intellect available during the action. So that is another exercise we have to do. Question, study, reflect, apply, introspect. If you do that, you will strengthen the intellect. And once you strengthen the intellect, to the extent you have strengthened it, to that extent you can control and direct your mind. So with that, we conclude today's session. Whatever I wanted to say, I have said briefly. I hope it made sense. Like I said, think about it and accept. Now, if you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for such a knowledgeable talk. And it was really wonderful interpretation on the essence of Bhagavad Gita in context of self-management, controlling mind, and using our intellect. So it was very beautifully lined up component of self-management, sir. We have some audience who have joined through Zoom, through YouTube channel or Instagram. Here I have one question from Harshit Parihar. The question is, do we have control over ourselves? Because one of my friend is depressed and he does not control on himself. On one side, we talk that we have no control over our situation. Some other past deeds come in front of us. I think he wants to know how to control the mind and overcoming depression.
See, first is asking, do we have control over ourselves? Of course we have. But right now we may not. But we can develop control over ourselves. That's why we are doing this session also. The importance of self-control, self-management. If you have been living constantly pampering your mind, always propelled by the mind, then it's now become very strong. I told you as an example in between, there is both Mahatma Gandhi in us and there is negative forces in us. The Pandavas and the Kauravas are in us only. They are not outside. Isn't it? This is a war which is going on within. And mostly what happens, negativities only win. Positivities don't win. So therefore, Sri Krishna comes to the help of Pandavas and then conquering the negativities. So similarly, we can have control over ourselves, but we need to build the intellect. But he is talking about his friend who is already in depression. So when you talk about depression, it depends upon what level of depression the person is. You know, is at the beginning stage or at a very serious level. So based on that only I can give solution. Now, some stages of depression, you need help from others, from the psychologists, psychiatrists, maybe the environment. You know, you need to take help. So first and foremost, the person who is depressed to some extent should realize that he is having some problem and take help. Only then those who can help also can help. So for him to start coming out of the depression, he can go and seek help from outside. I don't know if the gentleman who is asking this question, Harshit Parihar, has seen that movie. Is it movie? Beautiful Mind. There is this movie called Beautiful Mind. It talks about that professor. The actual story, actually. So he is schizophrenic. He doesn't know that he's schizophrenic. He doesn't realize. And there is a scene where he realizes there's something wrong with him. Initially, he's denying that. He's going on denying. At a particular time in the movie, he realizes something wrong. Then he cooperates. Then he starts taking the medicines without any problem. So I'm quoting that movie here to tell you that if your friend realizes that he's going through some difficulty, he can take help. So he's only controlling himself, right? But by taking help from others, then taking help from scriptures, taking help the way he should be helped. I'm not going into the details because I don't know what level of depression he is in. He can definitely come out of depression. It's not, but there will be some time there. Again, he's saying some past deeds come in front of us. As I told you, no doubt our present is determined by the past. But in the present, we have what is called as choice of action. Always we have that. It is independent. Now, we exercise the choice, but it doesn't immediately establish itself. So we give the example of a wall which is painted with yellow color, 3-4 coats of yellow color already painted. Now, you are trying to make it blue. Now, new coat you want to give after 3-4 years. You want to change the color of the wall. You want to say, you want to paint it blue. So you're painting the first coat of blue. What will happen? When you paint the first coat of blue, will it become blue immediately? It will mix with the yellow background. It will appear greenish. But if you continue painting it 2-3 times, then the the blue color will establish itself. So if you constantly put in effort in the right direction, consistently, if you apply yourself, you can control your situation. You can control yourself. It's possible. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We have another question asked by Navjot Sarna. What text should we read to study scriptures?
You start with anything, it's okay, but you can start with Bhagavad Gita also. Don't start with Brahma Sutra or Upanishads. Start with Bhagavad
Gita is, this is always well-known scripture, Indian ancient scripture. And all of us are very familiar. Yes, sir.
The beauty of Bhagavad Gita is, it is called as both Dharma Shastra and Moksha Shastra. Whereas Upanishads are mostly Moksha Shastra. They are very, very deep. They're very terse. So you don't go to PhD directly, you go from LKG. So you go with, I'm not saying Bhagavad Gita is LKG, but you go with Bhagavad Gita. You understand? You learn Bhagavad Gita. But before Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is also in Sanskrit, supposing you find it difficult, you can, I'm not recommending because I'm from that institute. The book that inspired me to come into this is the book written by my guru, Swami Parthasarathi. It is called Vedanta Treatise, the Eternities. It is a book written in English, in contemporary thought, and contemporary examples are provided there to make us understand the essence of scriptures in English language. He puts it in 3 parts, part A, part B, part C. Part A is Introduction to Vedanta. Part B is Practical Vedanta. Part C is Essence of Vedanta. So he takes the knowledge in the book, following the fundamental principle of education, moving from the known to the unknown. First, he comes down to our level, talks about Vedanta from our level, how it can be applied in our day-to-day living now, to act, to be successful, to control our emotions, to set a goal and proceed towards that, etc., etc. Then he goes into little deeper philosophy. And then finally, in the end, he gives the essence of Vedanta. So, Vedanta treatise is both Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, and Brahma Sutra. Therefore, I said you can read that book. It will take you slowly, step by step.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And on the behalf of all the audience and Shoolini University, I would like to thank you from my heart, core of heart. Sir, our Chancellor, sir, had another meeting to join. But overall, it was very wonderful talk. And we have learned so much things, so much essence of Bhagavad Gita in context of self-management. And there are several components of self-management. In day-to-day life, we have so much liking, disliking. We have choice of liking and disliking. So there is need to introspect and using our intellect for choosing our action, as you said. And this is very important for controlling mind and eventually for our self-management. So, sir, it was really very wonderful and knowledgeable talk. And I am very thankful to you, sir, and listen to you. I hope all the audience, all the students and faculties will really introspect their daily life and apply this knowledge in their day-to-day life for managing their selves. So thank you, sir. Thank you once again. And we will be looking forward to listen you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.